Okay, so we're going to talk now about proteins. Very, very important molecules in your body, no doubt. You know the sources, beans and meats and things like that, and we're going to talk about what they do in your body a little bit. One thing about them is that they're really, really big. They tend to be large molecules. The term for that, just so that you know, is this. It's macromolecules. Probably not a big shock there that that's what that means. You know, that macro refers to big, and then obviously molecules is molecules. And they can be made up of hundreds or to even thousands of subunits. The average size average is about 200 subunits. And we'll talk about what those subunits are. All right, subunits. Okay, so that's about how big they are. As we look at them, we'll notice that just like our monomer-polymer model that we've been talking about, there are subunits within them called amino acids. And we're going to really spend this lecture just on that, just on what amino acids are. So remember, when I say subunits, what that means is monomer. And then the protein itself would be the polymer. Remember the blocks. That's how we build up. Okay? So as we look at this, we have to get to know our amino acids a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and just reveal the rest here. As we look at this, this is an amino acid right here. This whole thing is the structure of an amino acid. And I know, given that we've really only gone through some basic chemistry, that this may look intimidating. But let's just break it down and see what we have here. I'll try to color code, at least to some extent. I'm going to use pink here for the first. That we have a central carbon atom, and that's right here in the middle. So remember, carbon can form 4 bonds, 4 covalent bonds. And so let's keep our eye on that. That's right in the middle there. And then outside of that, we have this whole unit to the right, which is called a carboxyl group. Okay? And the carboxyl group has certain properties. The big thing for us, you can see there's a double bond to the oxygen, and then there's what's called a hydroxyl group, an OH group. So it's got this hydrogen hanging out at the end. So that's another part, and that's this one, the carboxyl group. Okay, and then we have off to the left here, an amino group. Didn't mean to cross that out. That's amino group, and that's right there. Okay, and then up top, we'll go with yellow here. We have just a hydrogen atom, just a simple atom there. And that's this one, hydrogen atom. And then there's this unusual little R group. Let's do that in black. We'll just outline the outline. Okay? And so the R group, make that go away, I guess. Well, what that is really it is the part of the amino acid that gives the amino acid its specific qualities. That there's 20 different R groups. All amino acids have these 4 things, and a carbon atom is just a carbon atom. A hydrogen is just a hydrogen. Amino group is an amino group. It has the properties. That's all it can do. Same with the carboxyl group. And so the only place we can have any variation in our amino acid is here in the R group. And R isn't an element. It's just a variable put in because it can, well, vary. That's what variables do. So as it says here, a variable structure. And there's 20 different R groups possible. Okay, so as we look at these R groups, we'll find out, I'll just go ahead and reveal the whole thing, that there are 20 different amino acids that make up what we'll call the alphabet. And that's a really good way to think about it. Think about our alphabet, that there are 26 letters. You know, A, B, C, etc., etc. Now, what can you do with those? Well, it all depends on the order you put them in. So obviously I have more than A, B, and C to choose from, but I can just pick 3 letters and form a word. Sorry, C, A, T. Okay, so the letters bring certain characteristics. Now, if I bring different letters, I can spell something entirely different using our 26 letters, D, O, G. Clearly, we could get much more complicated than that. But if you use this analogy for our amino acids, that we have an alphabet of 20 amino acids to work from, we're going to create different words, so to speak. Obviously, they're not words, but if you think of proteins themselves like words, that you can spell different ones using different letters. Okay, now, as you can see here, these are our types of amino acids over here. We'll just say amino acids, AA. And they have different properties that they bring to it. And you can see some of them are really complex. I mean, look at this guy over here, or that right there, tryptophan. Very complicated structures. Some are less complicated. Glycine right here is just the highlighted part, the blue part, is your R group. And so in glycine, the R group is simply just a hydrogen atom. In alanine, it is a carbon and 3 hydrogen atoms. And then it can get into these big ring structures that you see scattered throughout. The important thing to recognize here is that amino acids have different properties. So they can be acidic or basic. So they can be an acid or a base. And for now, that's all you really need to know. I know you may not know tons about what acids or bases are, but they're opposite types of things. They can be charged, that is to have a charge with them, or we'll just say not charged. Not charged. Okay, they can be polar, and this is a big one. We'll talk a lot about this, or nonpolar. Okay. Now, one thing I want to point out here is that polar things are what are called hydrophilic. They are attracted to water. Okay? So we'll just say attraction right there. And nonpolar things are hydrophobic, water fearing, meaning that they are repelled by water. Actually, they're not even repelled. That they are, I'm just going to say, not attracted. The image to have in mind here is oil in water. It's not that oil repels it, it's just not attracted to it. And so it separates itself from water. And so that's going to be a big thing, that you have some amino acids that will actually, or some R groups, that actually cause the amino acid to be attracted to water molecules and almost dissolve, and some that just stay away, and nonpolar ones will tend to group together. Okay, and so you have these 20 different amino acids. Some of them your body can make 8 to 10, depending on what book you read. I'm sorry, 10 to 12, depending on what book you read. Those are called non-essential. Your body can make them, so you don't have to specifically go out and eat them. But then the other 8 to 10 are the essential amino acids that you need to eat. Okay. Now, if we're going to have proteins, we're actually going to have to bond these things together. So how do we pull amino acids together here? Okay. And so what happens is we're going to bond them by forming what's called a peptide bond. Okay, so this is a term that you should know. It's a specific kind of bond that forms between 2 amino acids. And I've gone ahead here and made amino acid 1, so I'll just say that this is AA1, and that this is AA, or amino acid 2. So we have 2 of them somewhat together. And you can see what's going to happen is that you're going to get a peptide bond that forms between the amino group and the carboxyl group. Actually, I'll go ahead and color code that. We'll do the carboxyl group. I'll show in orange. And so this is the one I'm actually interested in here. So that's my carboxyl group, my C, O, H, and O right there. I'm going to actually erase that just so that I just wanted to point it out. Boink. But that is the carboxyl group. And then, let's do the amino acid group is actually already in red. So we're going to look at this amino group right here. Okay? So what happens here, I'm going to pull this just a little bit closer to that. There we go. And what you can see almost right away is right in the middle here. Do it in blue. What do you see there? You have OHH. In other words, you have H2O. Remember that. If we could pull that water out, what's going to happen actually is that we are going to have that come right out of there. And now the nitrogen that was part of the amino group and the carbon are going to bond together. Now that's really separated and it wouldn't have that separation. But essentially what I have now is I have two amino acids. Amino acid 1 bonded to amino acid 2. Okay? And then that would happen over and over and over again. If I just do circles to represent an amino acid bonded to an amino acid, amino acid, amino acid, etc., etc. Remember, these go hundreds or even thousands long. But that's the process. And you could probably see that if we wanted to break up amino acids, we just have to add the water through a chemical process, and we would have our amino acid broken down, which then we could recycle and reuse. Okay, so that's the end of learning about just basic amino acids. So if you're at all confused, write down your questions, maybe watch the video again, and please ask. Go to your book, go to me, and make sure you have some clarity on this. All right, great. See you later.